Salam Morak, was geht, was geht? Neuer Mittwoch, neuer Stream, neuer Mittwoch, neue Reaction. So, heute schauen wir sich ein Video von Sam Eckholm an. Es ist ein englisches Video, die Untertitel sind aktiviert, falls euch das interessiert, was da steht. Ja, ich würde mal sagen, let's go. Es scheint ein interessantes Video zu sein. Ich hab Bock und starten wir.
Right now, I'm flying in a U-2 spy plane, 70,000 feet high at the edge of space. If you look outside, you can actually see the curvature of the Earth.
Oh, wie geil! Bro, what the fuck?
So to all the flat earthers out there, I hate to burst your bubble, but take a look at that.
Crazy, wie das ausschaut.
Welcome to Beale Air Force Base. Dating back to the 1960s, this base has been known for one main thing: flying spy planes. What began with the legendary SR-71 Black...
Oh, apropos SR-71. Haha! Wir haben ja auch eine hier liegen. Vielleicht sieht man uns. Wir haben ja auch eine stehen. Natürlich, ich bin ein riesen Fan von so einem Shit.
Blackbird now continues with the U-2, an aircraft developed in secrecy within Area 51 to fly espionage missions over the Soviet Union during the Cold War. But despite over half a century of advancements in technology, the iconic U-2, known by its nickname the Dragon Lady, continues to fly, taking Air Force pilots equipped with spacesuits up to altitudes exceeding 70,000 feet. Today, I'll be taking you along for an experience...
By the way, das sind einfach Raumanzüge für diese Piloten. Extra speziell dafür für dieses Flugzeug gemacht.
I never thought would be possible. A flight inside the U-2 to the edge of space.
Dass der da mitfliegen durfte, Bro. Wie? Ich will auch. Chase Car. Ja.
So the U-2 is not only one of the hardest aircraft to fly, but one of the hardest aircraft to land.
Okay.
Because of the U-2's 105-foot wingspan, she produces so much lift down low that you have to stall the aircraft to get her to land.
6, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Also vielleicht seht ihr das hier. Warte, eine Sekunde. Hier, der hat einfach seitlich kein Fahrwerk. Der hat sozusagen wie so ein Fahrrad hintereinander die Reifen. Und hinter ihm, hinter dem Flugzeug, fährt dieses Chase Car, um den Piloten vorne zu navigieren, wann er die Schubkraft rausnehmen soll.
Because we don't have traditional landing gear, we get a safety observer in the mobile vehicle. The mobile officer is there to help safely land the airplane. For the run-in phase, we'll set ourselves up with a nice turn geometry, accelerate as we're joining to where we get onto the runway behind the aircraft anywhere from 100 to 140 miles an hour based upon the aircraft configuration.
Once the aircraft comes to a stop, the ground crew put what we call pogos under the aircraft wings
Das ist sozusagen das Fahrwerk.
to level it. The bicycle landing gear, not very stable. You end up with a 105-foot teeter-totter. Once the aircraft runs out of airspeed, eventually it will settle onto one of its wingtips, which is why we have a titanium skid plate. The pogos are unpinned for takeoff and repinned on the ground after landing so that it can taxi back to parking like a normal airplane.
Well, there you go. If you want to be a race car driver, an astronaut, and a pilot, I think these U-2 guys are just about the closest to it. The U-2 is a product of the 1950s, when espionage played a pivotal role during the early Cold War years.
Weight was the critical factor in the whole.
After realizing that pretty much every Air Force aircraft was able to be intercepted by Soviet air defenses, the United States government realized they needed a new, more capable spy plane to keep tabs on the Soviet Union.
Ich glaube, ja, die Idee war dahinter, glaube ich, so hoch zu fliegen, dass keine Raketen diese Flugzeuge erwischen könnten.
idea was that if they could design an aircraft that could fly at altitudes exceeding 70,000 feet, they would be beyond the reach of Soviet fighters, missiles, and radar, and could do their spying undetected.
It has the world's most efficient lift-drag ratio for powered aircraft.
Not everyone knows that the CIA and not the Air Force were the first ones to fly the U-2. And the reason for that is twofold. The Air Force actually rejected the design initially because it was single engine, unarmed, and it didn't meet military specifications for airworthiness. The other one is that it's less provocative to have a civilian pilot overfly another nation rather than a military pilot. Beginning in 1956, President Eisenhower authorized the CIA to overfly the Soviet Union with the U-2. And he was really conflicted about whether to do so each time, because he knew he was risking starting another war, and we had just got out of World War II. But it was very important to get that intelligence on the Soviet nuclear program and their delivery vehicles, the bombers and their missile program.
The center camera is mounted vertically, the others at 37 degrees from the vertical.
And it really was a gamble each time he sent the U-2 over, because the intelligence at the time said that 70,000 feet was the limit of Soviet radar detection, but we weren't 100% confident. Well, it turns out
Ja gut, aber da musst halt echt Eier haben, dass du da hochfliegst.
they could detect us. On July 10th, 1956, the U.S. Embassy in Moscow received a note that said that the Soviets were aware of the overflights on July 4th and July 5th.
Wir bekommen einfach seine Nachricht. Jo, wir wissen Bescheid, was ihr da macht.
They wanted us to stop, obviously. The
Stop it! Now!
ability to track us was really poor, and they couldn't shoot us down. So there was no public acknowledgement of the U.S. U-2 overflights to the Soviet Union because they did not want to admit that to the rest of the world.
One of the most famous stories in the U-2 community is that of Air Force pilot Francis Gary Powers. In 1960, while flying the U-2 as part of the CIA, 30-year-old Powers was shot down over the Soviet Union by a surface-to-air missile flying at 70,000 feet. At the time, no one believed a crash at that high of an altitude was survivable, but miraculously, Powers ejected and lived. After being captured by the Soviet Union, Powers was put on trial and sentenced to 3 years in prison and 7 years of hard labor.
Boah.
The event made headlines worldwide, escalating the already red-hot tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union, bringing the two countries even closer to the brink of war.
Boah. Crazy.
Now, as you look at these photos
Du fällst einfach so von 20 Kilometern auf die Erde und du überlebst einfach.
of the incredible story of Francis Gary Powers, what goes through your head?
Well, Francis Gary Powers, that's a story that everyone in the U-2 knows, right? And I'm just honored to be a part of the legacy of men like him that had the guts and the
Boah, er schaut aus auf diesem Bild wie Magneto von X-Men.
bravery to actually
Mit diesem Helm und
overfly the
dieser
Soviet
graue
Union.
Farbe.
And you know, after he got shot down, he showed so much perseverance to stay a year and a half in a Soviet prison and then return with honor. So it's just an honor to be a part of an aircraft with such rich heritage.
You know, to get ready for this video, I actually rewatched Tom Hanks' Bridge of Spies movie, which, as you know, talks about the Gary Powers incident and the prisoner exchange that sent him back to the United States. I also love seeing that some of that movie was filmed right here at Beale Air Force Base, right?
Oh, den Film muss ich mir auch noch anschauen. Scheint interessant zu sein. Ich wusste nicht, dass es den gibt.
We actually have some maintainers and pilots here that were extras in that film, so we all thought that it was a pretty cool movie with the U-2 featured.
Now, one more photo I want to show you. This right here, as you know, is probably one of the coolest selfies I think ever taken of the Chinese surveillance balloon last year, where they sent a U-2 up to kind of see what was going on. I guess in my mind, like the U-2 is probably the perfect platform for that, right? To be able to fly that high and, you know, check out what the heck this thing was.
Yeah, that's right. Again, we are flexible and responsive and versatile.
Da haben sie extra die F-22, die ich auch habe, extra geschickt, um diesen Ballon abzuschießen.
Right? So we're here ready to answer the call.
Now, one of the most accurate descriptions I've heard about what it's like to fly the U-2 is imagine you're riding a bicycle, except that bicycle weighs 40,000 pounds and has a wingspan of about 105 feet. Its incredibly unique design is what makes the U-2 so difficult to fly, but at the same time is what gives it such a remarkable performance.
So the wings are designed to produce as much lift as possible while they're getting rid of as much weight as possible so they can get higher and higher and higher. It's been said that every pound of weight they get rid of, they go a foot higher. And they're aiming to go 70,000 feet and above.
So we already mentioned it's called the Dragon Lady. Is that why? Because it's kind of fierce at lower altitudes and then flies like a lady up high?
The flight characteristics up high, once you get into the area that it does its mission, it behaves like a lady. She flies beautifully. But down low, it's a little more challenging, so you got to wrestle the dragon to the ground.
Jetzt verstehe ich das, okay.
All right, so this is a speed brake. Really, the only time we use it is when we are done with the mission. It's time to come home and land, so time to come down. She likes being high, so the first thing in the descent checklist is putting the gear down and bring the boards out, which is pretty unique. Being up at 60, 70,000 feet, first thing you do to descend is put the gear down and then bring the speed brake out to start producing enough drag to get back to Earth.
Also dieses Flugzeug will einfach nicht landen.
So I read that this is the same engine the B-2 actually flies with. I guess that's a fun fact, is that true?
Yeah, that's right. It's the same basic engine that the B-2 has. So
Aber selben Antriebe, oh, wusste ich nicht.
some unique things about that. 17,000 pounds of thrust. So when the airplane's almost empty, around 20,000 pounds for sorties we do around here, you get a pretty high deck angle climbing away from the runway up to 30, 40 degrees nose high. All right, a lot's changed over the years in the U-2 cockpit. We used to have a physical periscope with a view sight right here in the center, replaced with MFDs to check the status of all kinds of different things.
Ja, aber das Ding schaut auch schon massiv abgefuckt aus. Ich meine, ja, hat schon ein paar Jahrzehnte auf dem Buckel, aber schaut schon ordentlich mitgenommen aus.
The jet engine instruments, primary flight display, status of different systems on the jet, navigation, flight controls. You got the yoke, the rudders, throttle on the left side, pretty typical.
Schau dir das an.
Brake control, spoiler control, and the mirror up here to check your contrails. You can see right now I'm just wearing a flight suit that we wear on every day, but if you can imagine putting the full pressure suit on, there's going to be even less room to move around the cockpit. So that's its own challenge to deal with.
Now, over the years, obviously, technology has increased. We have satellites now, but the U-2's still flying, and it's still doing a job it's done for a long time. Why is that? What does this aircraft still bring to the fight?
So we're in the business of high-altitude ISR. ISR is intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. We can be persistent, stay
Wir könnten hartnäckig sein und lange in einem
in
Gebiet
an area for a
bleiben.
long time. We could be flexible. So I could put a U-2 anywhere in the world on short notice and then turn around 10 minutes later and go right back. Every different kind of player on the team brings unique strengths to the fight. So Sam, what do you think? You ready for a high flight in the U-2 and go dance with the lady?
I think I'm ready. I'm nervous, I won't lie. This was, I think, the one aircraft I thought I'd never have the opportunity to fly in, so I think that will sink in just a little bit. But most importantly, I'm excited for all of you to come with me on this flight. It's as much for you as it is for me. Let's do it.
Oh, let's go!
To disconnect, I'm just gonna disconnect here.
It's gonna be, everything's clunky, you're gonna have this giant space glove on.
Anytime you have the opportunity to fly in a military aircraft, whether it's a fighter or a heavy, there's training you have to be put through.
Where's your canopy handle?
Left shoulder, get the beans.
They want to make sure that in the event of an emergency, you don't get yourself killed.
Whoa.
Well, at least if you can prevent it.
I lost the glove.
There was the flight physical to make sure I was physically fit to fly, academics to give me a basic understanding of how the U-2 works, egress training, how to successfully eject and bail out should we experience a malfunction, and even basics in parachute navigation so that I could safely steer myself to the ground. Sitting upright.
So I'm gonna lean forward and stand up. What have I just stood up into? About 100 plus knots of wind.
You might just have to like yeah. And you'll slowly go. If they're brand new though, you'll go through a full lesson of launch.
Well, there you go. Most of my initial training is now complete. So now on to the part I'm probably the most nervous for. Behind these doors is where I'm gonna be fitted for my spacesuit.
Let's go.
So why do U-2 pilots wear spacesuits? Well, put simply, if you flew to 70,000 feet without one and lost pressurization, that flight would be your last flight.
Ja.
There's a scientific term known as Armstrong's line, which is an altitude at roughly 60,000 feet, where the atmospheric pressure is so low that water boils at the normal temperature of the human body. That means that if U-2 pilots didn't have these special suits and a decompression occurred while at altitude, their blood would instantly boil and lungs would be ripped apart due to the lack of pressure. So as you can imagine, these spacesuits are custom fit for every pilot. But in case you didn't know, I'm not actually a U-2 pilot myself. So what they did is they let me borrow a suit from a pilot who's about the same kind of size and weight as I am. Now there's a
sonst wäre es ein bisschen zu teuer für eine Videoaufnahme.
certain level of adjustments that the team here is able to make, but other than that, we just gotta hope for a good fit.
Having your thumbs through these tabs here.
Now, when I say these are spacesuits, that's because they have actually been to orbit. Prior to the first shuttle mission in 1981, NASA detected a defect in the batch of suits they were making for their astronauts. It was determined that the suits couldn't be fixed in time to make the scheduled launch. So what did NASA do? They made a phone call right here to Beale Air Force Base and asked if there were any spare spacesuits that they could use. And I guess the rest is history. And that's why if you look back at the photos from the crew of that very first shuttle launch, they're wearing the U-2 iconic yellow suits instead of the NASA whites.
Make a fish?
Being the spacesuit is slightly confining. So one of the things that we actually look for when we're doing interview sorties is we do a claustrophobia check on folks.
How are you feeling, sir?
Das glaube ich euch.
You okay?
Yeah, feeling good. What'd you do?
So why a claustrophobia check? When we're looking to hire new U-2 pilots, we want to make sure that they're comfortable in the spacesuit, comfortable by themselves in that environment at all times. So what that entails is we put them in the suit, in a helmet, in an injection seat, faced in a corner, and leave them alone for 1 to 2 hours.
Stimmt, die müssen jetzt reinen Sauerstoff einatmen, soweit ich weiß.
To see how they will
Damit, dass deren Blut angereichert ist damit.
react. Not everybody does so well, but we want to make sure before we spend the money to train them that they know how to handle themselves.
This feels insane.
For me, one of the weirdest sensations in the suit was actually the breathing. For one, it's super loud, so you're hearing every single breath you take in and every single breath you let out. And also at the same time, it's sort of a conscious effort. Because there's a little bit of resistance every time you exhale, you have to think about it, right? It's completely unnatural to what we're used to in our everyday lives. So what does it feel like wearing the suit? I say it's equal parts badass and equal parts terrifying. On one hand, it feels like Neil Armstrong and Darth Vader. And then on the other hand, it makes you think just how vulnerable we are as humans and how the second we leave Earth, you're reliant on this technology here to keep us alive.
Crazy.
As soon as you have the suit on, every movement, every task becomes about 10 times harder. As I was practicing the different emergency procedures, turning dials, moving switches, even reaching down to actually pull the pins to arm my ejection seat handle, it was tough.
I mean, there is no higher level of trust that goes into us preparing your equipment, making sure that you're ready to go, and then all those checks you do.
Was für eine Vorbereitung dahinter steckt, Bro. What the fuck?
The pilot is completely dependent on that outside crew.
Yeah.
Because they can't do any of it. Even the person who checks their aircraft, who pre-flights their aircraft, that's going to be their mobile driver.
But tomorrow, it's all based on feel and what you think is what should be best, realistically. So, what you're going to do now is you're going to locate that food port for me as best as possible. Remember, you can use the bailar bar and find it with one hand and then just kind of guide it with the other hand until you can get it in that hole.
Right here.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Maybe.
Die Verpflegungsstange.
It's tricky, it takes a while. Are you getting any food?
Nice.
Awesome!
And then before you finish, take your time. I'm not in rushing you, but before you finish, lick the outside of that straw before you take it out of the helmet completely.
Okay.
So eat as much as you want. We're on your time.
Oh, wow. That was fun. My training was complete. My suit adjusted as best as possible, giving me a proper seal all around, meaning at this point, it was finally time to fly.
Shadows in the sky, footsteps in the night behind me.
I don't even have to do anything, they do it all for me.
Wolves hiding nearby, whispering do or die around me. Not
Aber was das für eine Erfahrung sein muss, Bro. What the fuck?
one single cry can save this soul of mine.
Diese Dinger da, falls ihr euch fragt, was das ist, das tun die Piloten in ihren Schleudersitz reinrammen, sodass die Füße nicht herumflattern, wenn sie weggeschleudert werden. Sozusagen eine Sicherung für die Beine, dass sie nicht irgendwo verkannt ist oder so mit den Füßen und sie die irgendwie wegreißen. Crazy.
From drowning, dripping from my eyes, seeing red tonight as I wait to say my last goodbye.
Approved, maintain flight level 190, rolling 15 at Charlie, wind 2007, clear for takeoff, change departure, have a safe flight.
Emergency O2 lanyard.
Installed.
O2 QDs.
Pushed in.
CT's drop, parachute remains on flow.
I got 1, 2, 3, 4, and a ball. Have a safe flight.
Aber wie cool das einfach ist.
Inspales tools cleared off, Chief. See you in a minute.
Copy that. Have a safe flight.
The U-2 may look like a giant glider, but in her core, she is a fighter jet. She takes off like a rocket every time.
So, Mongo, I heard you two pilots don't call it a takeoff, you call it a launch. Is that true?
It is. It takes a bunch of people to make this bird take off, and we appreciate all of them. Maintenance, PSD, everybody. Thank them for everything they do to make the mission happen.
And then it's a blast off, huh?
You're about to see.
Jetzt gleich sehen.
I'm ready.
Tower opinion 09, number 1 Charlie ready. Here we go.
Let's go. Let's go, let's go, let's go.
You're right, pogo free, pogo free. Here
Over
we go.
free, yeah.
Whoa! That is fast.
Crazy, wie der einfach abhebt.
Wow. That is incredible.
We ain't done yet. So right now we're about 0.3 miles from the field in the spiral climb.
That was literally a rocket ship. Makes sense you wear the spacesuits.
Oh yeah. NorCal Opinion 09 passing 200 for 230 request higher.
Opinion 09, Oakland Center, climb, maintain outer above flight level 600, report reaching.
Outer above 600, Opinion 09, woke up.
It's funny, I was gonna ask, is it normal, like right after you put your suit on, you just get like an itch on your nose? And it's like, can't do much for the next couple hours.
Yep.
Das ist natürlich scheiße. Aha.
45,000, Sam. What's the highest you've ever been?
So I did hit 50,000 once in an F-15, which was incredible, but we only did it for a few seconds, so this is gonna be a lot more legit, I'd say.
Yeah, we won't have any problem shattering that one today.
Now,
einfach Penisvergleich mit F-15.
crossing 50,000 feet is a bit of a milestone. This is the altitude where Earth's atmosphere ends and the stratosphere begins. And historically was once considered space, or at least what's known as the space equivalent zone.
Well, Sam, there goes 50. Your old altitude is now old.
Wie der Dude einfach so chillig ist. Auch die von der Stimme her ist ein schöne Stimmfarbe.
It's all new territory from here.
And you can see she still wants to climb. At altitudes above 50,000 feet, a person will become quickly hypoxic. Why? Simply put, there's not enough air pressure to allow your lungs to absorb the limited amount of oxygen that's in the atmosphere. So if you're going to be flying at these altitudes, you need to be wearing a full pressure suit, hence why we call it the space equivalent zone.
So if you notice here, if you kind of look slightly above the horizon, you can see a gradation of blue into a dark blue.
Wow.
Yeah.
If you could look directly above you, it would go even darker.
Wow, es ist so ein schöner Anblick.
So we continue to climb here. If you kind of maybe out the right side versus towards the sun there.
Wow, wow, es ist so schön.
And you can start to make out the gentle curve.
As the numbers on the altimeter continued to climb higher and higher, and as we quickly approached the 70,000-foot milestone, the views to my left and right were something straight out of a sci-fi movie. Other than the astronauts in the International Space Station, the two of us sitting in this aircraft are the highest human beings in the world. And as my pilot Mongo reminded me, because the rear cockpit in the two-seat version of the U-2 sits a few feet higher than the pilot in the front, that meant I was actually the highest human on Earth.
So geil. Wow.
You really are on
Ja,
top
es
of
ist
the world.
wunderschön.
Well, you more than me right now.
Yeah, that is true. And I guess I'm what, 2 feet higher than you?
Yeah, a couple feet.
Schau, dieser Anblick. Wow, Bro, ist so geil.
Up until this point, for my entire life, every time I've ever looked up during the day, I've seen blue sky or clouds. But at this point, it's 70,000 feet. For the very first time, the atmosphere is now below us. So when you look up, you see the dark black vastness of space.
Wow.
Yeah, I feel like I know the answer to this question, but does the view ever get old?
I don't think it ever will.
Now, there's a term in aviation known as coffin corner. It refers to the region of flight where even the slightest changes in airspeed or altitude can result in, well, I think you get the point.
Something else you'll notice on the speed tape on the left side of the screen. The red bar at the bottom, as we climb, it'll start creeping up towards our indicated airspeed as we start climbing into coffin corner.
The higher we climb, the closer we are to both overspeed and stall up at altitude, putting us at a razor's edge flying margin at any given time.
Go too slow and you'll stall the jet. Go too fast and you'll exceed your critical Mach number.
You see how easy the roll there is?
Yeah.
Es ist so schön.
Sensitive up at altitude, there's not a lot of air molecules.
The air over your wings will go supersonic, you'll pitch down, the aircraft will accelerate, and the wings will fall off.
So here we go, watch your left wing.
Bro.
Wow.
Wow.
So it's only been a little over, an hour and a half for me, but what's the longest flight you've ever had?
So my longest one in the U-2 was 12.8 hours.
Fast 13 Stunden.
Moving iron between.
Eisen zwischen hier und die Schusslinie bewegt.
Here and downrange.
So what are you doing to pass the time on, something that long?
A lot of folks will read or, keep themselves busy. Do puzzles, that kind of thing. Keep themselves mentally alert.
Was the rear end a little sore when...
War dahinter ein wenig Wunder, als sie endlich ausgestiegen sind?
Surprisingly, no. I mean, I keep my lap belt so I have enough space to kind of lift my butt off the seat and kind of flex my legs so I don't, get too sedentary.
That's smart.
We have some room, not a ton of room, so it's, we work with our sports therapist to kind of come up with the little things we can do in the sky to kind of prevent, blood clots and things like that.
All right, well, I think now's a good time as any to pop open my lunch. Never thought I'd be eating an apple pie at 70,000 feet, but here we go.
First time for everything. Enjoy.
Will do. Honestly, this apple pie actually tastes pretty good. You can actually taste the crust.
Oh yeah. There's not many bad ones.
What are your favorites?
I really liked the chicken tortilla soup for the
Hühner Tortilla Suppe.
longest time. They changed the straw structure, and now it's hard to get the chicken through the straw.
Oh no. And not everyone knows they actually have heaters in the single seat variants of these so you can heat up your food.
Yeah, it's a little induction heater, kind of down by your left hip. So electric induction, heat it up for about 10 to 15 minutes and get a nice warm meal.
That's cool.
I love how the food bag says dragon food.
Dragon food.
Oh yeah, there's all different ones that say things.
Opinion 09er, the traffic's no factor, descend and maintain flight level 240.
240, Opinion 09.
Wie schön das einfach ausschaut, wow.
Alright, Sam, so coming up will be our descent check. And first thing we do is we lower our gear, get drag out there, and help the jet start descending.
So gears then down from 70,000 all the way till we land?
Yep. And there's no speed limit for the gear, unlike other airplanes.
Ah, okay.
So for this one, we'll bug 90 knots. Once we're lower and slower, we'll go ahead and get configured. We simulate the drag profile we want with 20 degrees of flaps and idle power.
Okay, can't wait.
Pin 09, high key fraction cautionary.
Pin 09, Port Loki.
If I had to sum up that experience I just had, I'm not sure you can really put it into words.
Ja, glaube ich dir.
Truly magnificent.
Einfach, ja.
Pin 09,
Einfach sprachlos einfach, what the fuck.
151105, clear to land.
For more than 50 years, the U-2 has played a vital role in American strategic intelligence.
From the Gary Powers incident on May 1st, 1960,
The U-2 continues to be a valuable asset to the U.S. Air Force and will likely remain so for years to come.
And 86432. 2, little left rudder. Welcome back, nice job.
Habt ihr das gerade gesehen? Er lässt sich einfach fallen.
2, little left rudder.
Was?
Welcome back, nice job.
Back on Mother Earth.
Made it back safely.
Honestly, I'm not sure if I'm ever going to be able to top that experience, but I want to sign off by saying thank you. We did it!
So crazy.
First off, to the team here at Beale Air Force Base, allowing me to do a project like this. Second, to my team manning the cameras and helping me tell stories the way I want to. And last but not least, to you watching. Your support lets me do videos like this, and it means more than you will ever know. So, that's it from the mighty U-2 Dragon Lady. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And in the meantime, I think I'm gonna go get out of this suit.
Ja, Digga, ich will dieses Suit mitnehmen, Digga. Wie geil, einfach so ein geiles Video, taugt mir. Wow, like. Wie geiles Video, Bro. Wenn es euch auch gefallen hat, bitte ein Like und ein Abo dalassen. Video ist fertig. Ich würde sagen, ich wünsche euch noch einen schönen Mittwoch und sage euch noch dazu, habt euch alle lieb und ciao, ciao.